Wonderful. I just really want to start with thanking Rabbi Dr for hosting me and for really putting a lot of energy and effort to organizing this little workshop tonight and for bringing me in and putting it together. So first of all, who am I? So my name is Avi Engelhart. I have a doctorate in clinical psychology. I'm also a rabbi. I'm also a Supreme Court family mediator. And I'm also an approved parenting coordinator. I'm a professor at various universities teaching different courses in psychology, and one of the things that I like to do the most is to really do hands-on practical workshops. It could be many different things. One of my favorite is communication as well as conflict resolution. So tonight we're going to be talking about a communication tool. The class is titled The Art of Saying No. It's not my idea. It's something that I've learned from some of my mentors. The foundation of the theories and the ideas that we're going to be talking about come from a book, Nonviolent Communication, authored by Marshall Rosenberg, who's actually Jewish. He was a student of one of humanistic theory's main psychologists, and he's a very big believer in the potential of people as well as people's ability and desire to connect with other people in positive and productive ways. So communication is a very complicated thing. There's many different ways people communicate, many different types of interpersonal relationships. It can be between an employee and employers. It can be between a husband and wife, parents and kids, friends, students and teachers. There's so many different types of relationships, and all of those relationships have many different facets and a lot of different components that are all wrapped in. And communication is very complicated because what people say isn't always what they mean. And what they mean isn't always what they say. So it gets very difficult to navigate. So the idea for tonight is to discuss one tool, which is the art of saying no. And specifically, when somebody asks you to do something, somebody asks of you something, it could be your boss asking you to take on another project. It could be your spouse asking you to go out or asking you to do the dishes. It could be a child asking you to play a game or a child asking a parent for candy. We find very often that it's very difficult to say no. So the first question that we want to raise is, why is it so hard to say no? There are a lot of different facets of why it can be hard to say no. Sometimes we feel guilty saying no. Sometimes we're afraid of how the other person is going to receive our no. And we can all relate to times when we've asked people to do things for us and they've said no to us, and it doesn't really feel good. So the first step that we're going to take is try to understand a little bit more of the psychological theory of what's going on when somebody makes a request from us, and how that ties in to the difficulty in saying no back. To use that, we're going to use a theory called self-determination theory. It's a very thick book, about 700 pages. I did not go through the whole thing, but I did read some of the articles that they wrote. And Ryan and Desi have really become the leaders nowadays in the conversation of what motivates people. What pushes people to do anything and everything that they do? Why do we get out of bed in the morning? Why do we go to work? Why do we spend time with our friends? Why do we have our hobbies? So self-determination theory, based on a whole lot of research that we're not going to go into the nitty-gritties, has come to the conclusion that there are three main drives, three main motivations that people have. And as we're discussing these motivations, I'll ask you, or I'll challenge you to think of a couple examples in your life of the things that you do, the choices that you make, and see if you can connect it with one of these three ideas. The first idea is a sense of competence. We want to feel that we are competent in this world. We want to feel that we are doing a good job. We want to be successful. We want to be good at our job. We want to make a certain amount of money. We want people to approve of us, and we want that when people think of us, they say, hey, you know what, that he's doing a great job. She's doing a wonderful job. They're a great mom. They're a great business partner. They're a great spouse. They're a great parent. This is our need and our drive to do things to be the best that we can at whatever it is that we are putting our energy and attention to. The second need that people have is the need for autonomy, which is the idea that I want to be the driver in my life. I want to make my own choices. I want to do the things that I want. I want to choose my own destiny. So people like making choices and people like doing things out of their own volition. And then, as I'm sure we can all relate, people generally don't like being forced to do things. Because being forced to do things challenges their sense of autonomy. The third need that Ryan and Desi suggest that underlie our motivation is the need for connection, relationships, having positive, healthy relationships and connections with other people is a main driving force in our life. Why is this connected to say? Let's take a step back for a second. When somebody comes to us with a request to do something, when somebody asks us to spend time with them, when somebody asks us for help painting their house, when our boss asks us to take on a project, if we take a step back and understand the theory of motivation, they're coming to us with an underlying need that they are asking us for assistance in meeting. So it's not just about painting the house. It's not just about getting the project done. It's not just about spending time together. There's an underlying need within their request. One of the things that Marshall Rosenberg in Nonviolent Communication points out is that behind every request, there is a question. That question is, do I matter to you? In other words, do my needs matter to you? So when the boss calls you into the office and asks you to take on another project, he's not just asking you, hey, can you take on this other project? There's something more hidden underneath what he's saying. He's saying, hey, I have this project that's really important for me to get done. It's really important for this company. It's really important for the business. I need that to get done. Can you handle it? Well, imagine for a second we say, oh, no, I'm sorry. I don't have time for that. The message that we're sending is you have a need for this business. You need this business to be successful. You need the company to do well. You need this project to get done. I don't care about that. Somebody calls you up and they say, hey, do you have time tonight? Can we spend some time together? Go out for dinner maybe. Maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's a friend. And you say no. Well, what were they really asking? Perhaps what they were really asking was, hey, I need some connection. You're my friend. You're my partner. I need some support. I need to be with somebody who cares about me and I care about them. Do you have some time to help me meet that need? Do you have some time to be there for me? And when we say no, that's a full-out rejection. So the first step, and something that we want to be able to understand whenever anybody comes to us with a request, isn't just the words that they're saying, but we want to try to be able to understand what's going on behind their request. Okay? So what I want to do for just a moment is we're gonna have about 60 seconds of silence because I really was hoping this could be a little bit more of a workshop format. And what I want you to do for a moment is think about something that somebody asked you, a request that they made. It could be from a spouse, a friend, a boss, a coworker. Think of the request and just take a moment and see if you can connect it back to one of these underlying needs. Again, competence, they want to do a good job at life. Maybe they're asking me for assistance to do something well. Autonomy, maybe they're doing something because they want to have fun. They're doing something that they enjoy. They're doing something just because that's what they want to do. That's what they want to enjoy. It's a hobby maybe. Or maybe they're asking you for a certain sense of connection for a relationship. So just take a moment, think of an example in your mind and see if you can connect those dots. Great. Thank you for taking that time. So the next step, and once again, in theory, this is all very nice, but the goal is to really be able to practice these ideas. So whenever we encounter a request, or whenever we encounter a situation, we can really stop and really try to understand what is going on, what is being requested of me, and how can I respond to that person in a positive, healthy way that's not received as rejection. So what I'm going to do is I have a handout. I'm going to share this with everybody. And we're going to go through, there's 5 steps here to kind of help assist us in responding to whatever the request is. Remember a couple minutes ago, we spoke about when a person makes a request from us. Underneath that request, there is a drive or a motivation that comes from one of these 3 areas, one of these 3 human needs: competence, autonomy, and connection. There's another layer. Okay? That discussion we had focusing on the person making the request. Now let's pause for a second and think about ourselves. When somebody comes to us and they ask us to do something, they make a request from us, our answer, our response, whether it's yes or no, is also being motivated by one of these basic needs. So when a person says, hey, can you come over and help me paint my house this weekend? And I really don't want to paint that person's house. I really want to stay home and just rest because I had a really long week. That my no, or my desire to say no, is also coming from one of these basic needs. And it can be different for everybody. It could be that I don't feel like I have the autonomy in this choice because the person's just guilting me into it. And they're making me feel like I'm a really bad friend if I don't come over and help them paint their house. Okay, so I feel like their question in and of itself is challenging my own sense of autonomy, right? I'm sure we can all relate to this. Sometimes people ask us to do things and we don't really, objectively not want to do it, but the way they asked us or the way they presented it and the way they're kind of like guilting us into it, if they would have just said please the first time, I would have been happy to do it. But they're making me feel like a terrible person if I don't comply, so I don't want to do it. Or it could also just be that I want to just relax at home. I want to focus on my own autonomy and do something that I want to do and not this. So the second step after we have been able to decode what the person making the request is really needing deep inside is to ask ourselves, what do I want? What is going on inside of me that is motivating my response? Okay. So we're going to go through, we have 5 steps here. We're going to, and kind of set these up as a 5-step process of how to make this response to the person that is asking us to do a favor. Okay, so the step 1 is to identify the deeper need. Okay, we just discussed that. Is it coming from competence? Is it a need for connection? Is it a need for autonomy? Step 2, and step 2 could be skipped. I think step 2 is very important because step 2 forms a foundation of empathy. Okay? Empathy is really understanding the other person, understanding where the other person's coming from. So step 2 is to clarify their need. It sounds like, could it be? Is it possible? Now, we don't want to say, it sounds like you need some autonomy. Is that what's going on right now in your request? Or it sounds like you need some connection. Well, what we want to try to do is we can try to dig a little bit deeper and try to put a label on what's motivating them, kind of just to check in with them. Am I understanding you correctly, right? So your boss has that assignment that he asks you to do. It sounds like this is a really important assignment that you really want to get done, and you're asking me because you think I'm the best person to do it. Am I understanding you correctly? Okay, or your friend calls you up and asks you if you want to go out. Is it that you want to go out for dinner? Are you really hungry? You just want to hang out? right? And then you'll get their response. And sometimes when they respond to you, they'll say, no, that's not it. But that's okay. Because if we're trying to understand them, if we're trying to set a foundation of, I'm here to understand you, right? Remember the underlying request, the question behind every request, which is, do I matter to you? Are my needs important? So taking that step to try to clarify and understand, hey, am I understanding you correctly? Is this what's going on? Is it possible that, and once again, we're using our intuition, we're using what we think, what we know about our relationship. Is it possible that you just had a really rough day and you just need somebody to chill with? Yeah, exactly. Okay, great. Well, now we understand. This foundation of empathy, I believe, is critical because it's not only does it show the other person that you understand them, it gives you valuable information that now you can use to navigate this situation. But the third reason why I think it's the most important is because if you set the tone in the conversation as I care about you and I care about your needs, and I'm open to connect with you and I'm open to trying to understand the situation better, even if in the end of the day you're not able to assist them, because you set that tone of understanding and acceptance and I'm here for you, you can kind of invite them, will you be there for me? Can you try to understand me just like I'm trying to understand you? And when you create that foundation, a lot of really beautiful things happen. Because when you create that foundation and you kind of go beyond the request, you open up the door to having a really meaningful conversation. And it's not even necessarily whether or not you end up doing that specific thing or not. Because a lot of times when you start talking about the fundamental need that's going on underneath, and you start addressing that and you start having that conversation of, you matter to me and I matter to you. So it's not about that specific request very often. Okay. So step one is to try to understand what's really going on in the other person's request. Step two is to clarify. And I remember when I was training to become a marriage counselor, this is called reflecting a lot of times when a person's talking to you. By the way, this is a great tool that you can use in any type of relationship. But anytime anybody says something to you, just reflect it. Am I hearing you correctly? Is this what you're trying to say? And one of the tools you can use to do that is I think there's two realms. There's a need, right? Are you needing some support right now? Are you needing some connection? And you can use the framework of competence, connection, autonomy. It sounds like this project's really important to you. Yeah, this project's really important. Well, I understand why you're stressing about it so much. You can also reflect feelings, emotions. You sound really overwhelmed right now. When I was learning about this tool, my teacher said that a lot of times we're afraid of being rejected. We're afraid when the person says, no, that's not it. You're not getting it. And the suggestion that was given is to kind of just put your thumbs like this and just squeeze them so you don't get reactive, and just to step back into it and to say, okay, I understand I'm not getting, but I'm here. I'm trying to understand. Help me understand. I'm here for you. And something that I've seen time after time, and it's really a magical thing, is that when you get it right, you both know it. You get this, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, because it feels right. When that person hears you reflect them in the accurate way, you're validating their experience. And a lot of times you're putting the words to their own experience that they themselves couldn't do. So when they hear it coming from you, yes, that's it. So even if they reject it and they say, no, that's not it, it's really an invitation to try again. Let's try to get more clarity. And I'm here to do this. And while this whole process might sound, weird and awkward, what it's accomplishing is it's going back to that initial hidden question of, hey, you matter to me. What's going on with you? I want to understand. I'm here for you. And a big psychologist, Daniel Siegel, who's also Jewish, he came up with a very famous phrase, which is name it to tame it, which is anytime somebody is dealing with a very overwhelming emotion or thought or idea, a lot of times if you can just put a name on it, like, wow, you're feeling really overwhelmed, aren't you? Oh, you're feeling really angry about that. Oh, you're feeling really sad that, they didn't show up on time. Yeah. Just the ability to name it and put a label on it forces our brain into higher functioning thinking and gets us out of this emotional reactivity. So when our boss, calls us and I need you to get this done, and it's like, wow, you sound really overwhelmed. This must be a really important project. You're right, it's a really important project, and we got to get to it right away. It's like, wow, this is like your number one priority now. You're darn right, it's the number one priority. And what you're doing is you're validating them and you're helping them understand what's really going on inside of them. Okay, and that brings us on to step 3. Step 3 is wait for confirmation and breathe. A lot of times in these situations, we need to breathe and we need to make sure that we ourselves are composed. Okay, sometimes what happens, and we're going to discuss this in step 4 and step 5, is if we feel like we're being attacked or overwhelmed, which, if we can put this back in our theory for a second, remember, we are motivated by those same needs: competence, autonomy, and connection. So if I feel like somebody is forcing me into a situation, I'm going to feel like my autonomy is being threatened, and I'm going to be motivated to defend myself or protect myself. Do you mind passing this? Thank you. If I have a laundry list of to-do things for my job, I've got 5 projects that I'm doing, and I want to get those projects done, and I want to do a good job of it. And now my boss is putting on another project. Well, how am I in the world am I going to get all these projects done? Well, now my sense of competency, that's being threatened, because I want to do a really good job at what I'm doing. And if you're going to give me more work, I'm not going to be able to do a good job. So my reaction is also coming back for my base needs. But what I want to be able to do is maintain my composure, because right now I'm trying to explore what's really going on, what's really triggering them, what's really pushing them in their request. So breathe, and we try step 2 until we can figure it out. Okay. Once we've clarified what their need is, once we've clarified what's driving them and motivating them in their request, we move on to step 4. Step 4 and step 5 is where we come to a fork in the road. Step 4 is, can you say yes to their request, but on your own terms? Okay, now I'm going to share with you a little secret. The art of saying no is not the ability to say no. It's very easy to say no. What's really, really hard is to be able to turn your no into a yes. That doesn't mean you do what they ask. It means that you are able to respect and honor your own needs and meet your own needs and be able to express your needs even if it goes against the needs of the other person. And one of the ways we start by doing this is, remember, that empathy. We're showing up. We're saying, I care about you. I care about your needs. Let me hear. Let me understand what you're trying to get. Let me try to understand what's motivating you. Step 4 is a little bit easier. Step 4 is, can you say yes on your terms? If you can, that's great. What does this look like? Would it work if we hang out tomorrow night? Your boss gives you that project. Say, yes, I can take on that project. Would it work if I put these other 2 projects on hold for 2 weeks so I can take care of your project? Your child says, I want candy. My daughter said this the other day. Yes, we can have a candy after we finish dinner. So the first step 4 is this I'm able to meet your need. I also have needs that need to be met. Maybe it's my need to be a good parent, right? And we don't have candy before dinner. It's my need to be good at my job. It's my need to be a good spouse. It's my need to be a good friend, right? So your friend calls you up, hey, can we hang out tonight? Would it work out if we hang out tomorrow night? Right? So you can meet your need, I can meet my need. And if I'm happy with that, then that's great, right? Once again, the suggestion here isn't to say yes on your terms and still be resentful and angry about it, okay? Because we all know that whenever we do things that we're resentful for or we're angry about, it doesn't feel good. And usually, even if we do go out and hang out with our friend, like there's going to be this underlying, elephant in the room that you really didn't want to hang out with them. And they're probably going to feel it and you're going to know it. And then you probably end up in a fight after 15 minutes. And then, your friend's like, forget it, I'm just going to go home. And in your like subconscious mind, that's actually kind of what you wanted in the first place. You didn't want to hang out. So maybe that's like our subconscious of sabotaging the whole thing. So the idea of step 4 is a real, honest, genuine, I can meet your needs. Can you also meet my need at the same time? But what happens when we just can't do it? We really don't want to do it. Now comes in step 5. Step 5 is very difficult. Step 5, I wish I was perfect at step 5. Step 5 takes a lot of training. It takes a lot of practice. It's something that very often when I have a really difficult, when somebody asks me to do something, or when I'm in a situation that I know is like really difficult and I really want to be able to communicate it, what I usually do for step 5 is I sit down with a pen and paper and I really try to self-explore and understand why I don't want to do that thing and how I can express it in a positive way that can lead to a meaningful outcome. So step 5, right? This is when we're not going to help the person paint their house. Step 5 is to connect with my own need and to be able to share with them, not that what I'm saying no to, but what I'm saying yes to. Yeah, I know it's a little nuanced, so we're going to try to give a couple examples. So when I say no to them, when I say no to my boss, right, it's a very awkward thing. I really don't want to say no to my boss and put myself out there. Excuse me. So what I might say to my boss is, I really hear, right, when we did number 2, I really hear that this is a really important project and you want me to do a really good job on it and you really want this to get done. I'm concerned because I have 5 other projects on my desk right now. And it's really important for me to really put forth all of my energy and effort to getting these projects done because I really want it to be perfect. And I want all of my work to be perfect. And if I take on another project, I'm not going to be able to be perfect on all of my other jobs. So I really want to help you with this project, but I also really want to do a perfect job on it. Can you help me out, figure out a way to navigate that? Okay. So step 5 is trying to, and once again, remember, we've already set the tone of empathy. Right? So if we show up right away and we say, no, well, I want to stay home and I want to relax, might not go over so well. But if we can start with, the tone of empathy, wow, I understand this is a very important thing, or I understand you really want to hang out. I need to relax tonight. I need to take care of, I need to spend time with my kids tonight. I need to finish these other projects before I take on more responsibilities. Instead of telling the other person no and kind of giving them that rejection, it kind of opens you up. It's a little bit more vulnerable. It kind of opens you up to a little bit more of a personal conversation of what you're choosing to do and putting the focus on your choice and how your choice is meeting your needs versus rejecting the other person. So it's not about the other person. It's about me trying to live and make the most meaningful choices that I can make. The What I think is the magical thing about this really is that very often we'll find that we never even really need to get to step 5. Um, Sometimes we do. Sometimes step 4 works. We can even imagine, your friend says, "Hey, can you come over and help me paint my, I don't know, basement this next Sunday?" And you really just don't want to paint, right? So if we take a second to pause, what are they really asking for? So yes, they're asking for help. They want their basement to look good, but they're also reaching out to their friend. They're reaching out for connection, right? And so sometimes it does get a little bit more complicated when there's more than 2 needs going on. But an answer that we could give is, hey, you know what? I'm really not into painting, but how about if I pick up dinner and I meet you at your house when you're finished? Right? So this shows, hey, I'm still happy to help you meet your needs. There's some things I can do, some things I can't do. I'm not into painting, but I can still help you meet your need. Or, hey, you know what? I know a really good painter, right? I know a really good painter. I can give you his number and I'll meet you for dinner afterwards, right? So the key here, and what I really want to try to zone in on, is that we're acknowledging the needs, we're understanding the needs, and we're even helping them meet that need. Right? He probably doesn't really have a need for me specifically to come over and paint his house. He needs the house to get painted. So I can think of a different way to help him do that. But what if he also has a need for connection? Well, I can also help him get that. I can help him meet that connection. We're going to pause here for a second. Any thoughts, questions, comments? Yes, so.
Everything you said is really good, especially for me. I don't know if anybody else. I'm the yes person.
Mm-hmm.
Too much, I feel resentful. So, when you said about the painting of the house, why do we have to feel like we can't say no? Like, why am I always like that? Why do I feel like I can't say no? Plenty of people say no to me.
Yeah.
But what's wrong with me that I can't say no?
So it's a really good question. I think we can all relate to that sense, that awkwardness, or that inability to say no. And what we mentioned at the beginning, right? So a lot of the things that we've talked about tonight are based on, we mentioned before, self-determination's theory of motivation, which is a theory that suggests that there are 3 main things that motivate us to do things. Okay, those 3 needs are confidence, autonomy, and connection. So we want to be good at what we do. We want to feel a sense of self and self-volition so that we make our decisions of what we do. And we also have a need for connection.
What was the second one? I don't understand.
Autonomy.
Which means freedom?
Freedom. I make my own decisions. I do what I want. Okay.
But actually, I don't find that freedom. I find that I'm slave. Because if you can't say no, you're actually not free.
Excellent. I'm going to come back to that in a second. The third thing is connection.
So that's probably me.
Relationships.
But you know what? It backfires because you know what? Most people, they just want the favor. They don't really want the connection. So that's why it backfires.
So hold on. And there's 2 different perspectives that we want to take, okay? First, there's a perspective of the person who has the ask. So somebody asks, say, can you come over and paint my house? Now, I want to try to understand, what do they really want here? Okay, now, I can go through my list. Do they really want me to come over and paint their house because they need specifically me, Avi, to come paint their house? The answer is no. They just want their house painted. If I would say, hey, I have my friend George. George is a great painter. He'll do it for free. He'll say, great. All right. Is there a threat to autonomy here? No. Is there connection here? Now, this is where we came before. It could be kind of different than the way you suggested before, that I'm just their buddy and they want to spend a Sunday afternoon with me. And they're like, hey, I got this. I have this chore I have to do. If you came along and did it with me, it will be so much more enjoyable. We can schmooze, right? So now I kind of see that it's not just about painting the house. It's also that they want to have a connection, okay? Now that's coming from the perspective of the requester, okay? Now, in my response to that, right? So if they're just trying to use me to get their house painted because I don't have a relationship, and maybe they think I'm just that yes person that always says yes, and they'll know that I'll do it and I'll bend over backwards. So now I have to ask myself, well, what's motivating me to say yes? Okay, and we're going to get there in a second. What I mentioned earlier is that if this person just wants to hang out with me and I don't want to paint, I could say, hey, you know what? I don't want to paint, but I'll come chill with you. And he can say, you know what? If you keep me company, that'll be great. All right, that works for me. So now let's go back to your question. So somebody makes the ask, right? Hey, can you help me paint my house? I want to ask myself, what is motivating me to say yes? Especially given the fact that I don't want to. So if I don't want to, what's pushing me to say yes? And I'm going to ask myself those three things again. Why am I saying yes? Is it because of competence? What would that look like? That would look like I want to be that person in the community that anybody can call upon and I'm always there to help. Now, if that's the case and that's what motivates you, then maybe you'll say yes. But if that's really your goal, that you really want to be that person, and that's what's motivating you, then you'll be happy to say yes. If you're still not happy to say yes, then that's not motivating you. A lot of times it's connection. I want to be a good friend. Now, being a good friend sometimes falls back into the competency. Because if I was really a good friend, wouldn't I help them paint their house? So this sometimes takes a lot of self-exploration. This is where guilt comes in, right? We guilt ourselves. Oh, if I really cared about them, if I was really there for them, I totally would have dropped everything last minute and I would have gone over and I would have painted their house. I feel guilty, right? So what we want to be able to do is have a little bit of self-exploration and say, what's motivating me? And a lot of times, if we can explore that, we'll come to the conclusion and say, hey, you know what? It's really reasonable here for me to say no. They're not really going to get offended. They're not going to think negatively about me. It's not going to change my status or standing in the community. It's going to be fine.
But what happens if so think negatively? That's too bad. What do I care? Why aren't I strong enough to say, you know what? I don't care if you think negatively. I'll tell you what I get a lot of, which is hard. Constantly, could you donate to this? Could you donate to that? Could you donate to this? Could you donate to that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anybody, I think everybody's getting overwhelmed with that. There's this thing called chesed fund, and it's, I would say every day something else. And if somebody sends it, like, for whatever thing, this a lot of stars, and it comes to a person, let's say it could be your sister, your neighbor, and you just feel like, you know, they're such a good neighbor. I don't want to say no, but that's really what it is.
Right.
It's my
So,
sister, I don't want to say no.
Can I say something?
sure.
I don't think it's. I think you're thinking about it the wrong way. It's not that you're not strong enough to say no. Because, like, for example, in this chesed fund, if you had $100 million, you wouldn't think about saying no. You would give because you want to give. The reason why you're fighting yourself whether I say no is because not any financial reflection,
Right.
but just like there's a limit of how much you can give.
Sure.
And if you had unlimited resources, you would give as much as you can, but you don't because we all don't. And you're fighting yourself because you want to give, but at the same time, you just can't do it. So that's what it is. You don't think you're not strong because you don't. It's hard for you to say no. It's because you have a good heart. You want to do it. You just physically can't do it. If I want to be able to dunk, I'm not Shaquille O'Neal. I can't do it as much as I want to.
Yeah. What's your name?
Teddy.
Teddy. So that's a really great idea. And if we can plug that back into kind of what we were saying before a little bit, which is it's not that you want to say no. It's not that when your neighbor calls you up, hey, can you donate? It's not that you don't want to do it. And you can express that, you know, and we can kind of plug it back into our formula a little bit. It's like, I would love to donate to that organization. I also have other responsibilities that I've made financial commitments to, and I have to meet those first. It's a very different communication. But in the end of the day, you're not writing that check.
One other thing I just want to add, because I find myself doing this a lot when I was working in another job. I would always not want to say no, but I wouldn't explain why. Like, I think this actually progression of step 1 through 5 is really good because it's most people, if you just say no, they're just going to take it like it's rejection. I think step 4 is it that basically says, okay, I need to make sure that my needs are met for me to competently do what you're asking. if I'm sacrificing myself at the expense of what you're doing, A, I might fail and that's gonna make you upset. And B, I'm sure gonna fail and that's gonna make me resentful because I overextended myself to help you.
Exactly. Very, very good point. Right. So
Kind
as
of what you said, and I wrote it down, I need to respect my own needs.
that's the foundation. If we're not respecting our own needs, then we're not setting ourselves to be happy and functioning in the way that we can really give to other people. We're just squeezing ourselves out and being like the schmata, being the
Yeah.
floor mat that everybody's walking over. But if for us to really give, we need to be full first.
What
And-
told me,
Full means that my own needs are met. So if I'm sacrificing my own needs for somebody else, first of all, it's going to drain me. I'm not really happy to do it. There's going to be resentment. And there's probably also going to be like an undertone of like, I don't really want to do this, which the other person will probably pick up on. Like, you don't seem happy helping. You know, of course I'm happy helping you. Like, no, you don't seem it. Like, when you're happy doing something, you know, you're happy doing it. And when you're not happy doing it, you probably put a smile on our face and try to fake it. But most people with their intuition, they can pick up on it. So if we can find a way where we can help, or, you know, if your friend is, you know, putting together a fundraiser to help their school, and you can say, hey, you know what? You know, I have other financial responsibilities that I have to, you know, take care of before I can financially help. Is there another way that you think I could help? And they say, oh, you know what? They're looking for volunteers to come to the preschool to read books for the kids. You're like, you know what? I could do that. I'd be happy to do that. Right? So once again, we're not looking for ways to extend ourselves or alternative things to do that we're going to be resentful about. We're looking for ways that we can say yes to that person, yes to the connection, yes to their competence, right? They want to run a really good program. You can say, hey, I'm not able to donate right now. I could help you with, you know, coming to the shul, and I can help set things up before Mincha Marav or before Shabbos. There are other ways that I could help, and I'd love to be able to do that. When we're brainstorming, we're only brainstorming from the place of I have needs, and by the way, part of our needs as well is to connect with other people, right? Part of our needs is to have good, healthy relationships. Part of our needs are to be a good friend. And you know what? Sometimes friends ask us to do things that we really don't want to do. And we say, you know what? For you, I'm genuinely happy to do it. No, painting a house on a Sunday is not the first thing that I thought of when I was thinking about weekend plans, but for you, I'm happy to do it. And if you can genuinely be happy to do that, then that's amazing. That's where you meet your need for connection. It's a genuine connection that you are there for the other person. Okay. So when we're brainstorming other ways to say yes, other ways to show our support, other ways to show our connection, we're doing it from that same place of how can my needs and their needs kind of meet together in the same place so that we could both have a meaningful experience and a meaningful alternative. Any thoughts, questions, comments? I've shared the main ideas that I wanted to share. One last idea that I will say as I was driving here, it's something that comes up a lot. I'm a parent, so it comes up a lot with kids, which is a little bit the format that I put together here is basically as a response when somebody asks you to do something. So somebody asks you to do something, how can we respond in a more meaningful, positive way without, you know, just being that schmata and without giving in. Another area that the art of saying no comes in is when somebody's doing something and you don't want them to do that. Okay, so I can relate to this a lot. Like my kid is jumping on the couch and I don't want them to jump on the couch, right? So there's a theory in psychology, which is called reactance theory. And I'm going to talk about it in this context, but a lot of it ties into our previous conversation when somebody makes a request from us. Reactance theory suggests that when a person hears no, they automatically want to do the opposite. Okay? It's called reverse psychology too.
it's like oppositional.
That's oppositional. Okay. So reactance theory suggests that anytime we say no to somebody, they're going to want to do that thing anyways. There was a story, true story, you can look it up for the details. In Europe, a couple hundreds of years ago, the main staple food was wheat, flour. They would turn it into bread. Okay, that was their main staple, their main crop. Some explorers went out and they discovered a new food. They discovered the potato. And they brought the potato back to Europe. And they came in front of the king and they said, we found this new food. It's a potato. It can store for a long time. You can boil it. You can put it into fire. You can mash it. You can bake it. So many good ways to prepare the potato. And if we start growing the potato, now we have two crops to rely on, right? Very important back then. Food is really important. If the wheat crop gets ruined, we still have the potato for sustenance. The potato gets ruined, we still have the wheat. King is like, amazing, genius, this is great. Let's start planting potatoes. So they went out and they started handing out potatoes. And they said, everybody start planting potatoes. We're going to have two crops to sustain us. People took the potatoes. Now you imagine looking at a potato and you're like, this does not look like a good food. This does not look enjoyable. It's very hard, it's dirty, and people refuse to plant potatoes. King doesn't know what's going on. He wants this. Just a true story, by the way. Look it up. King doesn't know what to do. He's trying to force everybody to plant potatoes. Complete refusal. So the king gets an idea. So he says like this. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up a garden, a royal garden. We're going to build walls around the entire garden. And I'm going to post soldiers at the entrance to the garden. And we're going to tell everybody that the potato is a royal food. You are only allowed to eat potatoes or grow potatoes if you are part of the royal family. Anybody caught planting potatoes or eating potatoes that's not part of the royal family is going to be punished. And he put his soldiers around the garden. But he said something to his soldiers. He said, I want you to guard the potatoes, but don't guard them very well. If anybody tries to sneak in, turn around. Let them in. Within 2 years, potatoes had been stolen and dispersed all around Europe, and people were now growing and eating potatoes on their own volition. This is a classic example of reactance theory. When the king told people to plant potatoes, nobody wanted to do it. As soon as the king said you're not allowed to plant potatoes, boom, everyone's planting potatoes. I thought that was a cute story. All right, so that's
Whoever says that, forbidden water is
It's sweeter, exactly.
So now you have your kids jumping on the camera.
Very good. So hold on, we're going to work on that. So very good. So that's reactance theory. And by the way, if we plug this in, remember that we're motivated by 3 needs: competency, autonomy, and connection. One of those needs is the need for autonomy. Anytime somebody says no to us, it threatens our autonomy because I want to do it. So if you say, no, I can't, that threatens my autonomy. Now I want to do it even more. Okay, that's why reverse psychology works so well. This is the foundation of reactance theory. I want to do what I want to do. Don't tell me no. So if we understand the idea of reactance theory, we can even understand so much more. When somebody asks me to do something and I say no, that's like a little bit of a slap in the face. Nobody likes hearing no. So just like when somebody asks us to do something, we spoke about and trying to reframe it into a yes, I can, or yes, I will focus, or yes, my priority is, or yes, right now I need to take care of X, Y, and Z. How do we plug this in when somebody is doing something that we want them to stop? Now, if we say no, or if we say stop, what are they going to do? They're going to keep jumping. So what we want to do is do something a little bit similar to what we just did. Okay, we're going to tell them yes. We are going to reframe our statement as a yes. So what does it look like? Yes, jump on the couch. No, it does not look like that. But it might look like, by the way, do you remember what we talked about before? All those steps of validating and empathy and understanding where they're coming from. Hey, that's a lot of fun jumping on the couch, isn't it? You're having a good time. Yes, I'm having a great time. It's so much fun. Okay, we can jump on the trampoline outside. We can jump on the bed. We can jump on the grass. Jumping on the couch is not an option. Now, I didn't say no. My message is that's not an option. Hey, use your autonomy to choose an alternative that works for me. Okay, so you want to jump? Great, jumping's fun. I get that. We can jump on the trampoline, we can jump on the bed, we can jump on the grass. Somebody you have plans to go out. Instead of saying no, you said, I can go out tomorrow night, I can go out tomorrow for lunch, I can go out for breakfast. I'm giving you a lot of options of what's possible, what I can do, what works for me. I'm giving you my yeses. And now you have the autonomy to choose what works for you. So based on that reactance theory, no or stop is a direct threat to autonomy. Anytime we can give the other person options, that respects their autonomy, and that will increase the chances of them complying and being happy to work with you. So those were the two ideas. Once again, the idea of responding to somebody when they make a request, right? So the first thing is to identify what need is motivating them, whether it's competency, connection, or autonomy. Step two, clarifying their need. It sounds like this is really important to you because, or it sounds like you would prefer to go out on Tuesday night. Is it possible that this is what's going on? Is it possible that this is what you really want to accomplish? Wait for confirmation. Take a deep breath. Try step two until you get it clear. Step 4 and step 5 is, can I say yes to you, but do it under my own terms and my own conditions? Or step 5 is to explain and to share with the other person what you need to prioritize, or what motivation or what need you have that you need to focus on, so that very often you can then come back and be more present and help the other person meet their needs as well. Thank you again for having me. If there's any questions, yes.
Thank you so much.
So these words, when someone comes, say anger already.
Definitely. And the most important thing is step 1 and step 2. And step 1 and step.
But you have to take yourself out of the emotional, connection that's happening.
Yeah.
It could be you're already angered by how many times he came and asked.
Right. So if you're triggered, it's going to be really hard to have composure. So the first thing we do is kind of breathe, have that composure, but kind of throw the focus back on them. Hey, are you really angry because of something that happened today? Like, yeah, nothing was going my way. And you'll find that you might get a lot of no's, and they might even get more and more angry, but you kind of just stand your ground and be like, I hear you're really angry. I'm trying to understand you. I'm with you. I understand you're really angry. I want to support you through that anger. Tell me what's going on. And you'll find a lot of times that when a person's really emotionally charged, whatever the topic is that comes up, it's not about that. It's about the underlying emotion or the anger or the fear. And like we said before, if you just name, they'd be like, wow, you sound really darn right I'm angry. And you just give them that validation of, yeah, I see that. A lot of times that builds that connection. And then once you're able to label what they couldn't, you'll see that it kind of starts to dissipate. Thoughts, questions? Yes.
There's a gentleman by the name of Chris Voss. He's an FBI negotiator, and he gives a lot of like sales and business advice now. One thing a lesson that I learned that is, inherent in step 2 is getting a no out of a person is a lot easier than getting a yes. Because in a lot of instances, if you ask someone, "Hey, do you want to buy this?" Like they feel cornered. They're like, "Oh, you're gonna, give me this sleight of hand at some point. I'm gonna lock myself in, and then now I'm trapped." And saying no is like, "Hey, would you be opposed to buying this tomorrow?" So I'm like, "Okay, I can say no, I can say yes." It's like I'm not so pressured. So when you're like going through step 2, and like even if you can't pinpoint what their motivations are for like feeling in a certain way, by like going through the iteration of yes, no, or no, no, yes, it actually helps diffuse even more.
Sure.
What I was just gonna ask is,
Can I just, before you ask your question, I would want to respond to that. Something that you can also do, step two, is like you just said, get that yes. You know I'm here for you, right? Yes, I know you're here. Okay. You know that I care about you, right? So even in those conversations, like you just said, getting that yes out of them is nothing to do with their ask, nothing to do with their emotions. But you're just setting that stage for the empathy, for the validation, and for the connection. So like you sound really angry, but you know I care about you, right? And that question in and of itself very often is going to stop them in their tracks. But yeah, I know that. Okay. Because if I can help, you know I'm going to help you. You know that, right? And those yeses, like you just said, soften up the entire experience and now put you guys in this much calmer and connected place to be able to resolve the conflict. So I really like that idea, and you can definitely use the getting the yes out to help as well. And what was your question?
so just to be clear, it's actually the opposite. You're trying to get a no out of the person. Because if you get at the end of the day, you want a yes. But if you're just asking someone like on the surface level, just like yes or no, or you want, let's for example, in sales, you want to buy this. Oftentimes, unless someone actually wants it at that moment, they're always going to say, "Oh, let me get back to you." Oh, no, I don't.
Mhm.
So, as I understand it, just to like not kill the deal immediately, you kind of want to like don't put the pressure on them to say yes right away. You know, I think that the difference in that approach and the approach here is that, which maybe is intertwined at some point. I just maybe am not an expert on it. Is that in like instantaneous interactions, you don't have the time to develop the relationship and build that foundation where you can ultimately get to that yes in a, hey, I'm here for you. I'm trying to respect, whatever your intentions are. In that sense, it's like a, do you want to buy this or not? And it's like oftentimes getting a no sometimes better. Again, I'm no expert in it's just a thought, but here was my question, and maybe you can integrate that ideology with this ideology. Oftentimes, I try and develop a relationship with, let's say, a client to establish a sale ultimately, but also, not a snake oil salesman to just make one sale and move on. I want to develop that relationship. The problem that I find, or at least what I find difficult, is having the other person understand where I'm coming from as well. Because I get it. Like if I was being solicited to buy something or for a service, everyone immediately when they say, "Oh, I'm calling from so and so," it's a set. They're like, "Okay, thank you, goodbye." Like there's that immediate like knee-jerk reaction to just say no and move on. How do you get the other person to kind of view your perspective in a 20-second window? Because that's often all the time you get.
So I think that it's going to be very hard for you to expect something from them if it's not a two-way street. So even to start off with, like, like you're selling cars, I don't know, I totally understand it's really expensive. It's probably really going to hit your wallet. You want to talk about some ways we could reduce the price, right? So already you're setting up the stage. I care about you and your needs, and I'm here to work with you. Now, that was a really quick sentence that you just said there. And their response, like if they're there in the car dealership, they're probably there because they have an idea of buying it and they know it's going to be expensive and they know it's going to hit their wallet. And yeah, they would love a way to be able to reduce the price somehow, right? And you get that, right? So you walk in and in that first sentence or two, you show them, I get you, I understand your needs, and I'm going to help you meet your needs. Okay. Now, along the lines of that conversation, when they say, "Oh, could we knock it down $5,000?" right? When you say, "Hey, you know what? I wish I could do that. I need to make a commission too." So they're a little bit softer to that. They're like, "Okay, I hear that. That makes sense. You're spending this time with me. You need to make a commission. This is your job too." But because you've already set that stage of, "Hey, I get you. I get your needs. I care about you," they'll be more open to caring about you too.
I hear that. And I think this is all like under the assumption that they're at the table, Like if someone is at the dealership, there's some part of them that wants to buy the car. Whether they buy the car or not, or whether they're in the market to buy a car or they're not. They're there as part of them, hey, I'm gonna buy the car. that's when you get them to the table, like, okay, we're on some common ground of like what this street is. What I'm saying is, how can I help project to the other person what my intentions are and that be appealing to get them to the table?
So
So when they get to the table, I agree. I can go back and forth. This, is definitely, I can follow this rule set, just
so
getting them to the table.
So I hear your question, and I think the truth is that like I know there are a lot of these like YouTubes and books about this. I'm not a business person, but one of the things that I have gleaned, and if you're familiar with these videos, I'm sure that you're familiar with this idea, is the idea of trying to identify their needs. What do you need? And if I can understand what their need is, I'm not selling them the car, right? I'm not like sell me the pen. I'm not selling you the pen. It's what do you need right now that this will meet or that the car will meet, right? And if I have no clue and I'm shooting in the dark, it's going to be really difficult. But if my approach is, what are your needs and how can I help you meet that? You're doing a certain type of business and you say, hey, I'm a professional and what are your needs? I think I could help you reach more clients. I think I can help you have more billables. I think I could help you have more. And when I tap into your needs or when I try to clarify your needs, it's not even a conversation of, will you buy my pen? It's a conversation of, what do you need? And can we partnership so that I could help you meet those needs? And when a person, once again, hears that your entire focus isn't selling the pen, your entire focus isn't on, hey, I got this great business or this great thing that I do, you should hire me. When your whole focus is, what do you need? Can I help you do better in life? Right? Hit into the competency, autonomy, and connection. What is competence to that person? What is competence to that business? Maybe it's more billables. Maybe it's more sales. Maybe it's, I don't know, whatever it is, more customers. Would you be interested in increasing your customers by 10%? I think I have a path that can help you do that. There you go. Your foot's in the door and it's all about them and what they get out of the relationship, not about what you get out. So there's just a little idea, but I'm not a businessman. Any other questions?
That's really good.
All right.
What if the person, let's say for instance, a person, you have a belief about something that this person doesn't need this or they're in excess of something. And so they take the position that if you don't give this to me, then you shouldn't give to anybody else because you need to give to me first. So how do you explain to that person that it's not about that, it's about a question of priority, about needs, and in your opinion, there's a conflict because you think that the person's asking for an excess beyond what is needed.
Okay, so if I'm understanding the question, it's you're wondering what happened. Let's say you have the resources and somebody's asking you for it with the presumption of, hey, you've got it and you should give it to me just because. And your position is, maybe I'll give you some, but I'm not going to give you everything that you want. Does that encapsulate the question?
Yeah, but also they feel that because of the relationship that then if you're not going to give it to me, you shouldn't give it to anybody.
So once again,
That means you don't have it if you don't give it to me. Otherwise, I deserve all of it.
so once again, so it sounds like this person has a presumption of what you should do. And I could totally imagine like this is a threat of autonomy. Like, why are you telling me what I should and shouldn't do, right? That should be left up to me, and that's my choice. Sometimes there are other tools that we have to use with this when people don't respond or don't respect our own boundaries, right? Like we can say, hey, you know what? I made a calculation and this is what I'm able to give to you right now. Or I have other commitments that I promised to other places. Right now, this is what I could give to you. I wish I could give you more. Maybe in the future, I could give you more. And if they keep responding in a way that doesn't acknowledge your needs, right? And they say, I know you can give me more. Come on, give me more. Then a different tool that I would suggest in that case is called the broken record, which is when you say the same thing to their response. So you say, You know, you asked for 100, you know, I wish I could give you 100. I have to allocate things in a certain way. I could give you 25. And they say, no, I know, there's no way you should be giving me, you're giving me 100. I know you have it. You just say the same thing over again. I wish I could give you 100. I have to allocate things in a certain way. I'm happy to give you 25. Oh, come on. And you might go through this broken record 4 or 5 times.
So you could use this with Chabad rabbi.
There needs to that.
But once again, you know, all of these things, all of these questions come back to how do you meet your needs while respecting their needs and your own needs, right?
Right.
So maybe the answer is, you know what, Rabbi, I could give you a certain amount. Next year, you know, daven for me and I'll be able to give you more. You know, the more parnasa you daven for me and you bring me in, there you go. I'll meet your needs, you meet my needs, you know, it can go both ways. And then you build a relationship and, you know, I'll give you, you know, my Meister money. And, you know, the more harder you daven for me on Rosh Hashanah, the more Meister you'll get, you know.
The question is, if someone wanted to speak with you, how would they communicate or contact you?
Great question. So it's written here. The best way to contact me is email Dr. Avi Psyd @gmail.com. So Dr. Avi @gmail.com. Feel free to shoot questions, comments. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thank you.